Hey everybody, so today I have an adoption case for you, so welcome back to Client Stories with Amy. So this gentleman was adopted in Louisville, Kentucky in 1961, and he was adopted into a family of 4 other adopted siblings. So his adoptive parents adopted a little boy in Germany when they were stationed there, came back to Kentucky where they're from, and adopted our client. 2 years later, they adopted our client's half-brother that the mom had given up also, and then a few years after that, they adopted a little girl that was not related to the other 2. So we have one sibling that's not related to anybody, the 2 middle children related to each other. They're either half-brothers or full brothers. We're not sure because the other brother hasn't taken a DNA test, and then a sister that's not related to anybody. So he grew up in a great family. He was very involved in his church and his community. He was just a good client raised by good people. Like, he's a good person. So he decided he wanted to know where he came from, and so he wanted to do a DNA test and find out who his biological parents were. We were able to identify his biological mother. She was a twin sister, and what was kind of a little weird about this case, or a little interesting about this case, is that his mom had given up at least 2 children that we know of for adoption, and her twin sister gave up a son also that nobody in the family knows about until we started digging. So our client's birth mother, she had probably about 4 or 5 children before the 2 that she had were given up for adoption. One of them went to some family members and they raised him. All the children pretty much ended up in the children's home, including our client. He was adopted out of that children's home, and I believe his brother was in that children's home also. They were adopted out of that children's home, except for the oldest children. The oldest children she ended up getting back later on. So she lost 1 child to the family member. All of her children were in the children's home. The oldest ones that were in that home she got back. The 2 youngest ones that we know of were adopted out. We don't know if there were any more besides those 2. So we got some contact information, proved everything, and he reached out to her, and she admitted, yeah, you're my son, and so is your brother. I loved you, I just couldn't provide for you. I was very poor and couldn't feed myself, let alone my children. So that's how that ended up. It was a great thing. There was a family reunion that him and his family were invited to that they attended. It was really great. But her biological children, all but one, would not accept him, or his brother, wanted nothing to do with it. So he and his whole entire family have bonded with this woman and the family. The only thing is that her biological children, except for one, feels like, no, you're wrong. They're not your kids. Those 2 boys, you didn't give up any children up for adoption. They're not my brothers. They're not your kids. It's your dementia talking, which is kind of hurtful to everybody because they're like, we have the proof, and they were actually able to prove the birth certificate to her based on the birth certificate number. They were able to take that number and find the original. In the records at one of the public libraries, they still had the birth books that were supposed to be burned back in the 80s, and this library never burned those books. So you were able to take the birth certificate number, match the number to the original that was in that book that was printed, and it had her name there. So it was right. Plus we had the DNA evidence saying that this was right. There was no question that this woman was their biological mother. So the siblings, the half-siblings, her children that she kept, just were not having it, except for one. One of them fully accepted both of these brothers and loved them, and they're still in contact with each other now. The adoptive mother had come over to the client's house, and they had the birth mother over, so he had pretty much everybody in his family in his house at this one point in time. And he was like, it was wonderful. My adoptive mother, who I love so very much, thanked this woman, thanked her for giving birth to me and my brother and allowing her to be a mom and raise us as her own. So it was a beautiful experience. They did a whole photo shoot in the front yard with everybody, included the whole entire family. So it was kind of a cool thing. But that is it for today, and I will see you guys later. And I'll tell you about the birth father side because there's some interesting things on that side too. So stay tuned for next week. Bye everybody. Don't forget to hit like, follow, and share.